All right. Welcome in, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. It is BTB Analytics again here for the college football quarterfinal matchup of the season. Let's see, seven more matchups, right? Four and then two. And then, wow, I cannot
Yeah.
believe we're more than the back nine. We are basically at the finish line, man. Yeah. So it's been a wild, fun ride. Of course, all the quarterfinal matchups we're going to be talking about today, breaking down some of the angles, some of the data, hopefully giving you guys some perspectives on these games from a betting angle, as well as just maybe some reasons to stay away from a couple as well. So you guys know the drill. Let's start the show.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today.
Okay, quarterfinals are here, Seth. It's crazy, man.
Oof.
Yeah, we had, unfortunately, the excitement was built up so heavy for the first round, and we didn't really get my scratch still needs to be itched. I think there wasn't a ton of good games, right?
Yeah. Well, they got more coming for you. So I didn't mind the blowouts. I thought it was cool to have it. I thought that I think there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking going on where it's like, this happened, and so the result would have been something different. I don't know that
Sure.
that's the case, but I'm excited for this second round. I'm excited for the playoffs, and
Yes.
overall, I'm just excited. I'm excited they're doing this, so I'm grateful.
Yeah. I think that's fair to say. And 'tis a season to be grateful. Damn it, we got
Yeah.
football. It could be a lot worse. We could be sitting here
Amen.
in April and May and wishing we had shitty blowout games. So
Yeah, or these meaningless bowls that are really difficult to bet on, to gamble, to handicap, and to forecast because of the portal. So, at least we have games where we can actually bet on them and they're entertaining, whether they're
yes.
blowouts or not. At least you can approach them in a typical fashion.
Sure. Okay. Well, speak of the devil, then let's approach some of these and talk about the quarterfinal matchups here. First up, let's head to the Fiesta Bowl in our backyard here in
Yeah.
Arizona, baby. We got Penn State and Boise State. Okay, this one's interesting. This one opened at 10. Now is basically at 11 throughout the market.
Yeah.
Saw it 11 and a half, I think, earlier today. I don't know if that still exists. We make the number 13 in favor of Penn State, so no edge from our vantage point from what the model says. Penn State coming off their pretty dominant win over SMU and really riding into this one with momentum, I guess I'll call it.
Yeah.
So, Seth, for this one, in my mind, let's break down some of the data here as well. But the defense is particularly the rushing defense that Boise State has faced to date is going to pale in comparison to how staunch basically what Penn State's going to put on the field. I think if my research is correct, maybe someone can fact check me out there, but UNLV was the best pass defense that they have faced to date. They're number 39th in EPA per rush. Penn State is number 6, I believe. So pretty big difference, right? So yeah. So what is the script in your mindset for how this one plays out? And does Boise, I mean, this is an 11-point spread. Does Boise have a shot to cover here in your mind?
Yeah, when you start looking at these numbers, you can really kind of convince yourself that these teams aren't not all that dissimilar, which is maybe why Boise is, I think, the number 3 in the playoff, right? Penn State, 9th most efficient passing offense, 23rd rushing offense. You had already highlighted Boise State, 12th passing offense, 6th best rushing offense. But Penn State there is pretty stout defensively, 17th against the pass, and 6th against the rush. And then Boise State a little less competitive on the defensive side of the ball, 60th against the pass, 63rd against the rush. And I think the game state, if you're Boise State, unfortunately, is you're going to have to go down on the sword. When you look at some of the per drive metrics, we like to look at echo rate, which is basically a drive quality metric. How successful are your drives? These teams are not too dissimilar on offense. 9th best echo rate over expected for Penn State, 6th for Boise. When we look at defensively, again, the nod goes to Penn State, 15th best echo rate over expected, 64th for Boise.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at points per echo, Penn State 34th in points per echo, Boise State 13th defensively. These teams, again, the nod goes to Penn State, and Penn State from a points per echo is 11th. Now, this is what, you asked me, what's this game state going to look like? Does Boise have a shot? Offensive weighted EPA, Penn State 6th, Boise State 8th. But this is where the whole thing falls apart, and Boise State does not have a chance in my mind.
Yeah.
Talent, Penn State, 11th most competitive or skilled roster.
Mhm.
Boise State, 76th. That is actually going to be the biggest difference in our database in this playoff. So we saw what happened in the first round, and we've been touting and talking about talent differential. We've really been honing in on Indiana and the fact that they're probably going to struggle against big dogs. Well, if we were bullying Indiana, it's going to probably be worse for Boise State. And I gave you all of those stats. All of those stats are with the 84th strength of schedule for Boise State, Penn State, 27th. So, yes, they might have some similarities specifically on offense, but they've done that against much, much, much worse competition. I think it's alt season. Now,
I had that written down in my notes here. I want to get into that. So finish your thought. I want to get into that discussion as well as the talent piece as well.
We regress to the market. I think we make this number 13. If we look at the raw number, we're looking at 16.5. So it's not the sexiest alt in the world here, but I think a 13.5 Penn State plus 105 at ESPN bet is the best number I can find for that 13.5. And I think I'm going to play it. I think I'm going to go down with, I'm going to go down with the ship here on what we've identified and what we've seen play out is this talent disparity issue is a big deal. And what's the one thing Franklin can't do? He can't win the big game. He can't beat the elite team. This is not an elite team. He gets to do this 2 weeks in a row. So again, we're going to talk about some of the futures positions. We're pretty heavily levered here on Penn State, to be honest, but I don't see a reason why this is going to be a change.
Okay, yeah. So for that reason in particular, like if anyone's watching this and thinking, there's some value in the alts, feel free if it makes sense, kind of what we're discussing here. But to your point, we got a couple of future positions on Penn State, which are pretty valuable at this point, and I may not double dip on the alts personally.
It's fair
because of that fact, but. Going back to, I guess, then the other point, the talent disparity. So, how much? And I know Parker, who we talked with a couple weeks ago, is wanting to do some work on this further in the offseason, is really trying to quantify the talent in college, right? And my question basically is like, how much should we weight that in this game? Because you look at a couple of the key guys on both sides. Ashton Jeanty is a 3-star. He's a Heisman runner-up, right? So he counts for quote unquote little as far as talent, right? Even he is by far one of the most talented guys in the country. Sure. And then you go on the flip side of it, Drew Aller, 5-star guy, but their stud tight end, Tyler Warren, another 3-star guy. So, where's the nuance of like where you guys get factored into the equation, because I agree, you like to your point, like the raw composite is what it is. Like Penn State is just a more talented team overall than Boise State, but where's the nuance there?
But this is the thing. There is, and we'll see what Parker finds there. I'm really interested to see what that research kind of entails and what we can learn. And no doubt, is quote unquote talent spent better on the quarterback or others more impactful positions, maybe. But the thing that is part of this thesis and hypothesis is that it isn't just one player, right? So Jeanty, sure, maybe he isn't a 3-star. He should actually be a 5-star. And so you're going to bump up, Boise's rating by a bit. But the thing is, it's all 11 players on the defense are better. All 11 players on the offense are better. And we're talking about every single position. So I won't be shocked if Parker finds that, you have 5-star tackles are better than, are more important than 4-star tackles, and 5-star quarterbacks are more important than 4 stars, but everyone else is somewhere similar. Okay, sure. But it's the aggregate of all that, right? It's also the 5-star. This is less of the case in, I think, the transfer portal era, but it's the 5-star freshman or sophomore. That's the backup linebacker. That's the gunner on kickoff. He's more talented. Like across the board, the whole team is talented. And so it rears its head in almost every kind of aspect of the game. And again, we saw this over and over. Indiana is the number 1 ranked or efficient passing team, but then they go against Michigan, who is this is a struggling Michigan team in the aspect of the national championship. But when we look at the talent, this is one of the more talented rosters. They struggled when they went against Notre Dame. they struggled. You know, when they play that elite talent that is only 4 and 5 star recruits, that's to me where this can fall apart. So the alt season isn't as sexy here because 11 is dead and 12 is pretty much dead. You're really basically just buying up to the more probable next football number, which is, you know, 14, which is why you play the 13.5. I think it's value at the 11 if you believe the 16.5 without regressing in the market. There's value there. There's value betting at the 13.5 if you believe the 16.5 number, especially at the plus 105 number. To me, it's exactly the strength of schedule, and I won't be surprised. Now, Penn State's offense looked concerning in that SMU game, and SMU has given up a lot of explosives. A la that Louisville game really stands out in my mind. So I was surprised to see them struggle that much. And quite frankly, I think they have 3 pick sixes. Penn State
in the SMU game.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think 2 or 3.
2. Okay. Yeah.
Two for sure. 3 for sure picks in the first half. You know, can you recreate that? I'm not sure. But the problem here is Boise State. We talked about it. Really good running the ball. Gentie's very good. Penn State, 9th in our database against stopping the rush. You're really forcing a very different game state than I think Boise State's, you know, normal or used to kind of leaning on.
Yeah. And the one thing that I don't know if there is an element that we should be talking about, but like this gets discussed somewhat maybe ad nauseum in the NFL on the whole rest versus rust issue. And the Boise State, and then the game we'll talk about next, Arizona State, like these teams haven't played in basically a month since December 7th, I believe. So what does that do to the flow of things, to the ability to be sound fundamentally, all these type of things? You know, I think a lot of it just, again, another tick in my opinion for Penn State in this one. So it's going to be, they got an uphill battle, frankly, just any way you slice it, in my opinion. So
and here we're the day before the game, so we're pretty liquid, I imagine. I think we're probably already at pretty game day limits. So I don't know if this number is locked in. I mean, it's got as high as 12 at circa, and it's got bought and back pretty quickly. So there is some support. I think for me in Penn State is just it's just too much.
Yep. I'd have to agree with you. So, all right, we'll see. That'll be the Fiesta Bowl. We'll see. Hopefully it can remain a relatively close game at least. But if not, I just hope Penn State wins because of our futures positions, baby. Let's roll. All right, let's move on. How about it? Next matchup, let's talk about the Peach Bowl. Texas going up against Arizona State. This is the one matchup of the quarterfinal where our model has value, has alpha on. So we are on ASU plus 14. In this one, we make the number 12, and we've seen some good CLV in this one. I think now, it's what is it?
There was some buying today. So
was there? Okay, so I see 12.5 pretty much across the market now.
Yeah, but at market making books, 12, 13, 13.5. So varying opinion right now in as this thing gets a little bit more mature. So we'll see where this thing kind of ends up. But yeah, I think we're going to talk about the numbers here. But 14 is quite a large spread here for a really potent Arizona State offense.
Yeah. So to that point too, like, and talk about, you know, adding the bulletin board kind of narrative based stuff here. Like ASU is talking some mad shit. I don't know if you saw this in the ESPN.
Don't like that.
Don't like that myself either. Scadaboo say no one can stop me. Levitt's like, yeah, I'm better than Quinn Ewers. Like, that just doesn't bode well mentally, you know, for what could happen in this game. But yeah, this one, Seth, I think again another potential issue for ASU. Like, yes, they are quite potent and they have a very efficient offense. At times, they're still down their number one receiver, so we'll see how much they can make up for that against basically one of the best defenses in the country in Texas here. Like we talked about the Boise State, ASU has faced some better quality defenses. Utah has been the best one they faced today. Utah was number 15th in overall e-paper play allowed. Texas, again, depending on which metric, number 1, number 2, across most categories that we track. So I think the issue for ASU is the quality possessions and the echo rate is going to be basically at a premium and potentially hard to come by. In this one. So I guess what is, or is 14 basically where we got it at? And I think you would have to get the 14 to see any value, but just too big of a number, right?
Too big of a number. A lot. I mean, to be frank, you get a ton of push probability in a game like this, and so you convert a ton of your loss probability to push. So we make this number. The raw number is like 7. We make it like a touchdown. I think I'm with you.
Yeah.
There you can make some of the arguments that we just made for Arizona State, Texas about the disparity in talent, but it's much less. Talent-wise, the Texas Longhorns are the 4th best overall talented roster. ASU is 30th, right? So they're still a top 30 team. So there is a disparity there, no doubt about it. And so, what can they do? But I think strength of schedule is still something to be a little bit left to be desired if you're Texas. And when we've seen them play the really tough teams, they struggle. And they've had a fairly easy schedule, especially for the SEC. I think what it ends up coming down to, you talked about some of the echo rate and drive quality stuff. Texas, when we look at their echo rate, they're 26th on offense, 38th in points per echo. ASU 5th in echo rate, but they're 47th in points per offensive points per echo. So, to me, what's they're going to have to do is they're going to have to finish drives, because Texas defensively, number 1 rated defensive echo team, number 2 in giving up the fewest points per echo. So ASU is going to have to get touchdowns. If they settle for field goals, I think this game could potentially get ugly. And we haven't seen, I think we've seen fits and starts from Texas, and we saw it, very much so in the SEC championship game. But to me, what ASU is going to need to do is they're going to have to run the ball. I think that's kind of the way they're going to do it, and see if Leavitt can do something there. He's no doubt going to have to make explosives. He's no doubt going to have to, complete first downs and move the sticks there. But I still think that it's going to come down to what Georgia was able to do, which was run the ball. And if they can do that, like Georgia was able to do that, that somehow looked like that was kind of Texas's weakness. And what's the ASU's strength? It's running the ball. So this, even though I feel like you can make the narratives that this game should be similar to the Penn State game in a lot of different ways, it does feel quite different. I think ASU can have success running the ball, whereas I'm not as confident that Boise State can. So to me, I think that's where the value is coming from. And when you run the ball a lot, you can control time of possession. And when you control time of possession, unders and dogs are correlated for a reason, right? It's because there's just less scoring. When there's less scoring, higher variance, right?
Right. Yeah. And you see, I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but you see ASU's run rate over expected. It's not astronomical, but they do tend to lean towards running the ball a little more than average. I listened to the Bet US show with Parker and the guys today, and he was mentioning kind of a nuanced point about one of his concerns for ASU, and I wanted to bring it up because I thought it was relevant, but also, it gave me like, okay, here we go. I don't know why. I don't like this bet, but whatever, it is what it is. So the offensive line for ASU, not world beaters. They've been slightly above average. A lot of PFF grades in the 70s and 80s, particularly on the inside. So the centers center and the 2 guards. They have, however, been quite below average in pass block grades, according to PFF. And the one thing that Texas has really done well pretty much all year is generate pressures, generate havoc plays. They're 99th percentile in havoc plays. So, and passing success rate allowed to boot. So I don't know what, like, is the answer just rush more and just to be more successful running the ball with Scadaboo? Like, everyone knows that's what the game plan is for ASU. And like we mentioned at the start, like, I just don't feel confident enough that the quality of teams that ASU has faced to date, it can stack up to what Texas is going to roll out there. And I think Texas is going to have success stopping the run. So are they going to have to get cute? Are they going to have to rely on a bunch of high variance stuff in order to cover here? I don't think they have a shot to upset Texas, in my opinion. But the only reason I'm not like totally trying to walk the plank on this one is we got a good number. Like we got a 14, and the market
we got the best of it, as
did.
far as the market goes. Look, there can be concerns, but I hear you there, but you can't tell me that the whole last quarter of the season, the game plan wasn't stop Scadaboo. I mean, at this point, the jig is up. Like, it's very clear what you would need to do to kill the monster, and you just can't kill it. I think, to me, that's the game. Like, if they can, yeah, no doubt. But I don't think it's any wonder what Texas is going to try to do. And sure, can they get to Levitt? Maybe. But if ASU is able to run the ball successfully,
Yeah,
it's gonna be a tough game. Like,
yeah, I know. Like I said, I mean, I guess both on both sides of it, it's easier said than done. But I mean, you just rattle off the the last quarter of the season: Iowa State, Arizona, BYU, Kansas State, UCF. Like,
but Iowa State's defense is good. Was supposed to be good. I was at one point in the season.
yeah, right, yeah. And
What about their offense? I mean, they just did whatever they wanted to Miami.
Who's that? Iowa State.
Iowa State.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And then they just yeah, they showed up there. So I don't know. I guess I'm just a little more concerned about ASU continuing to be able to do their thing against basically the top defense in the country.
I'll tell you this: if you want a live bet opportunity and you want to bet tails, you want to be a DGen on New Year's Eve. If ASU gets the ball and they get a quality drive, get to the 35, and they kick a field goal,
yep,
you slam Texas, because this is the only way in my mind they're going to stay in this game. They have to score touchdowns. But you can't tell me that Clemson, that game was a lot closer than the scoreboard will kind of show you. And no doubt, plus 14 or minus 14 bettors against Texas in that game were had their buttholes clinched. They definitely had a chance to cover. Does these teams feel that dissimilar? Now, Clemson has more dudes, but
sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
This doesn't. I don't know. This can get out of hand. Don't get me wrong. This can be round one in round
all
two
over again. Yeah.
But I think that ASU should have. There's no reason for us to believe that they can't run the ball. I mean, we saw that's the only. I mean, to put recency bias on this, they create so much havoc. They ended Carson Beck's college career. That's how much havoc they create. And they come out and with a backup quarterback, and all they did was run the ball with ETN and the backup. So they were one-dimensional, and they couldn't stop that. In fact, they had more success in that second half, Georgia did, than the first half. So you show me you can actually stop it, because they couldn't.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fork them, or no, that's nothing. Here we go. Fork them. Fork them, baby. Go Devils. Yeah, we'll see, man. Just cover the 14. That's all. I'll be happy with. All right, yeah, should be. Those are the two games where they have large spreads, large market consensus spreads here. So let's talk about the next two, which in theory the market is baking in or suggesting that it's going to be closer game here. So first one up, let's talk about Ohio State and Oregon, the Rose Bowl, baby. This one opened at 1 in favor of Ohio State and is mostly at 2.5 now throughout the market. You can see we make the number 1, so slight lean to Oregon, but you'd have to get through the 3, which it's probably never going to do in order to get the value. So to stay away from us, for us. Yeah, I mean, obviously these two teams played early in the season. It was a really, really good game and all that, but I guess there's been a lot of love for Dylan Gabriel, and he's a Heisman finalist, or top 4, right? I think he was number 4 overall, whatever.
Yeah,
but Will Howard and the Ohio State offense, I think, could be the reason why they take down Oregon in this one. I mean, just doing a side by side of these two, like, I don't know why Howard has not been getting more love. Like, he is better than Gabriel in overall EPA per dropback, number 3 versus number 13, and number 3 in passing success rate versus number 12 for Gabriel. So he is contributing. He is a big factor in them winning games, and he's having a great season. He's just not getting, I guess, as much love for whatever reason as Dylan Gabriel is. But the kicker, I guess, to put the cherry on it, Seth, from my vantage point on this one, is both potentially have very high potent offenses. We could see a shootout in this one, similar to the first matchup. But the defense for Ohio State, in particular, I think is where the issue is going to be for them. So You
For
have
Oregon, it will be an issue for Oregon.
it will be an issue for Oregon, in my opinion. Yeah, I like how I don't know. Do you put much weight into the fact that they got to beat a team twice and now they kind of seen everything on tape, that type of thing, or what's the feedback or what's the
Yeah,
thoughts on
I
what the
mean,
data showing?
these teams are really evenly matched. They're really
Yeah,
evenly, from a talent standpoint, very, very similar, highly
yeah,
recruited, 4 and 5 star recruits. And I think for me, I think the pathway for OSU here is on the ground, which is not as sexy. But we make Ohio State 9th most efficient passing offense, 12th best rushing offense, but on Oregon, 9th against the pass, 102nd against the run in our database. That is a huge glaring mistake, or not a mistake, but weakness rather for Oregon
right.
and their defense. I think OSU has to exploit that. When we look at echo rate and drive quality and paying these things off, these teams are very, very similar. But again, I think Ohio State's defense definitely seems like it does have that next gear. And I'm just concerned. I think that this is going to be a ground and pound game. And when we look at our weighted EPA metric, that's really what weighted EPA is bared out for us. Teams that are ground and pound tend to cover and win these games at a little bit of a higher probability. And when we look at weighted EPA, Ohio State 3rd, Oregon 15th. So again, another reason why I believe Ohio State should just run the damn ball, which is maybe not what you would think. And if you can get a game management out of the quarterback play there and some big explosives, 1 or 2, that might be enough. I mean, that Oregon game came down to really just running out of time and 12 man on the field, which shook everyone's brains. So I don't know that I put a lot of weight into beating a team twice, but I understand the market's kind of lean here to Ohio State.
Yeah.
And the other thing is this is neutral. Oregon is a tough place to get to, travel to, especially when you're coming from Ohio. And it's a loud place. It's an awkward place. This is neutral field, beautiful weather. That first game was in Oregon. A neutral field aspect of this, I think, can also make this again neutral. So I don't know. I guess I'm a chalk once again. I guess we're on Ohio State, so that's not chalk, but it does feel like Ohio State probably should be the favorite here, and I think the markets got this right.
Yeah. I mean, to the point about like run the damn ball. You're right. That's more than likely what they should do in order to have success. They did not have success doing that in their first matchup, either from a yards per carry standpoint or from an EPA per rush standpoint either. So yeah, hopefully they can figure out something on that end to boost that up. But yeah, the market, Seth, is not really anticipating a kind of a ground and pound thing. Like this total has ticked up 53, open at 53, touch 56, 55 and a half really now throughout the market. So
we saw the Penn State Oregon game, and in theory, you should really see no reason why Ohio State should not try to do whatever Penn State did. And that was a shootout. That was whatever the opposite of a rock fight is.
Pillow fight.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think this is going to be probably the best game. But it probably is going to be one possession. But Gabriel, I think Gabriel got a lot of love because Gabriel was good last year and he was the favorite to win the Heisman. So when you look at priors,
he was preseason favorite.
Yeah, he was preseason favorite.
Okay.
So, I think that's how he ends up there. I think Ohio State, both these teams, ironically, Oregon really definitely started slow. They were number 134 in our weighted EPA metric at like week 3.
Yeah.
And Ohio State was actually atop of a lot of our metrics, but they were just playing bad teams. And everyone just said, like they're just doing what they're supposed to do. So they didn't get a lot of hype. And then Oregon really didn't get any love until they beat Ohio State. And then all of a sudden it was a switch flip. And we didn't end up bet Oregon versus Ohio State in that first game, but our model definitely leaned in the Oregon direction and it kind of felt a little gross. But that was really the beginning of Oregon kind of playing at the level we've seen them play at. So I don't know. I mean, that the quality win against Penn State, I think, was pretty big in my mind. This is the rough path. Both these teams kind of got screwed. We'll talk, I guess, a little bit about it here in a minute, but to me, that's the biggest travesty. This is going to be a really good game, but this could have been the final.
At least a semifinal. Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, we'll see if Ryan Day too can kind of get some kind of proverbial monkey off his back as well. I mean, I know he can't beat Michigan ever. And does he have the same like bugaboo as Franklin does where he can't win the big one?
No, he can win the big one. He just can't beat the
He just can't
SEC
beat. He
teams
just can't
and
beat
Michigan. But he
and
beat
Michigan.
one SEC team. So
Okay, who knows, man? We'll see. All right, that'll be the Rose Bowl. That should be that should be another fun one. Yeah, and then the nightcap to end the quarterfinals is, let's talk about it. Let's talk Notre Dame and Georgia, aka the Sugar Bowl, baby. So this one opened at 1. It's largely still there. I did see some 1.5s earlier today. I don't know if they're still there. So this we're basically right at market here. So no edge from the model's perspective. Obviously the big thing, and I'm surprised this didn't, maybe it was baked in from the start, but Carson Beck is out, and his backup Gunnar Stockton, I believe, is in. So that is pretty much all anyone can really talk about in this one. And I think from a modeling, kind of a handicapping in general perspective, it makes this one a little difficult / a little perplexing, in my opinion.
yeah. And Ian Mills out for Notre Dame. One of their best defensive tackles is out for the rest of the season.
I didn't know that. Yeah. So add some other ambiguity there. But going back to Stockton real quick, he's got 28 attempts on the season, right? So very low sample size. So what
biggest balls? I mean, those attempts all came in the SEC championship game in the second half.
That's I wasn't going to say biggest balls, but yeah, I guess you said it more eloquently. What is Kirby Smart and co like going to scheme up for Stockton here, and what have they been scheming up for the past 3 weeks or whatever? Because do you just continue with that script and just go like high risk, high reward with him, or not? Because Notre Dame, on the flip side, basically number 1 passing defense in the country. So do you try to exploit them elsewhere and be a little more methodical, a little more pragmatic about the approach? So how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all we do know is the really important data point, which is all of this happened, and you have to understand that although we've only known for 100%, we knew that he's out for maybe 2 weeks. Yeah. They've known for 4 weeks, right? They've known from almost the moment it
SEC
happened.
Championship game, probably.
Yeah. So whatever they're going to cook up, they've had time, right? A month of practice can go a long way, and health. And this is a team that has been quite banged up, specifically at wide receiver. And so, do we see a refreshed Georgia offense? I'm not convinced that can't be the case. This is a highly recruited Georgia program. This dude is a 5-star recruit, no doubt about it. So, it's not like he's just some scrub just sitting on the streets. This guy obviously came in, he did what he did in the SEC championship. Oh yeah, they were down, I believe 6 or 3 at half. So he came into that game in a deficit, drove them down the field, scored a touchdown, and the rest is history. I mean, obviously took the game to overtime. So I don't think it gets bigger stage than that, to be honest with you. And quite frankly, how important was it to win that game? Because if they don't win the game, they're Texas, they're playing, Clemson in that game without a quarterback and, less time versus having a month to prepare. So this one scares the shit out of me. I'm on Notre Dame futures. I got plus 1,000, which at this current number, I'm still, I've gotten some good value.
Yeah, that's good.
This game is very tricky to me. And, Georgia has played the number 1 hardest schedule. So when we look at a lot of their stats, they all look worse than Notre Dame, but Notre Dame has played the 42nd hardest schedule. So I think people give them a little bit too much shit that they just play nobody. They basically play an ACC schedule. Okay. So, 42nd versus 1st. And when we're looking at talent, I think people don't understand how well recruited Notre Dame is, 2nd versus 9th. Yeah. But you talked about it. Notre Dame's strength here in my mind is defense. Number 1 against the pass, 53rd against the rush. And then on offense, what is their strength? Rushing the ball. Number 2 rushing offense. And the one thing that gives me pause is what has Georgia struggled with this season? It's against the rush, and it's a specific archetype. It's quarterbacks that rush. And this is giving me, Georgia Tech, the bells are ringing here.
Yeah, okay.
And King, basically did whatever he wanted, however he wanted, 8 overtimes. This is going to be that, but a little bit with, way more talent. So I think this is properly priced at 1. This is a coin flip game, and there's a ton of unknown, and I don't really know what to make of it. Do we know what year the backup quarterback is? Is he like a
No,
sophomore?
I don't know. It's a good question. I saw he's got 62 career attempts. So
Okay, so he's been around.
he's maybe a redshirt sophomore, I'd say.
Okay.
That's a guess. Yeah. So and to your point, and going back to that the difference between Beck and Stockton, like Carson Beck had his well documented struggles basically this year, but he wasn't I would say a liability by any stretch. He was 28th overall in the country in passing success rate. That is nothing to scoff at, and that is generally something that is not easily replicated, right? With your backup,
Yeah.
unless you're Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers.
True.
So yeah, I don't know. And if we pull up the matchup charts one more time here, you see, and I don't know how much we should be relying on a lot of this data in terms of like for a prior understanding what Georgia was as a team. Like, look at that run rate over expected, like minus 11%. Like they
were
like
throwing it.
to throw the ball. Now, how again, number one pass defense for Notre Dame, backup quarterback. You
Yeah.
really stick with that script, or
I don't know. And to your point, Beck has got a lot of hate. He's pretty much the only reason that this team has had the success they've had. They were getting blown out versus Alabama. He brought them back. I mean, a lot of their triumphs have come on the back of him. And yeah, a lot of their failures have pretty much all been blamed on him. But I think they're number 1 or 2 in drop rate in the last the back half of the season. His wide receivers have not helped him. I know they had a huge injury at wide receiver. I can't remember that person's name, but I don't know if they're going to be back here. But like, this is a complex issue, and I'm not sure you can plug and chug. Like, meaning Beck's injured. He was not going to play in this game, but he's injured and he declared for the NFL draft. I think that might be getting lost again, on some people that like, this is an NFL, tier quarterback here. So it's not like it's just easy to just plug and play and everybody behind him is going to have a lot of success. Now, that could be the case. We have the small sample size, and in that sample size, it looked promising, but I don't know. This one is tricky. Like, I could see it going either way, but
and this is one, like I don't have a full angle on it yet, but I want to get your take on it real quick, because I mean, again, our model isn't used to bet totals and all that, but this one is kind of in that weird sweet spot, and I could see a tail situation, either alt unders or like alt overs going crazy. So it opened at 43, it's now at 45 and a half. If Stockton and Kirby and them like figure out the game plan, and like he's able to gunsling it and just pick apart somehow the Notre Dame defense, although unlikely, I think, just because Notre Dame doesn't have any film on them or film on him, and like may be able to scheme up at least some early stuff in the game. I would not put it past them to come out fast, come out swinging, and maybe just, who knows, in theory keep it going. So there's a potential alt over, in my opinion, or the converse, and maybe more probabilistic, is he's the backup quarterback for a reason, and Notre Dame just quickly figures out what they're trying to do, shuts it down, forces them to become one-dimensional, and Notre Dame controls the clock, and you get Georgia scores like 10 points. So but to your point, like more broadly, I think it's just difficult to see what exactly is going to happen.
Yeah,
the one angle that we didn't talk about, I want to bring up still, is the game plan for Georgia on defense. They've been okay. They've been not, we've talked about it a couple of times. They've not been the traditional powerhouse defense of Kirby Smart teams that's kind of have become popularized, right? They're the kind of middle of the pack, 40th, 50th, kind of depending on the metrics you look at.
Yeah.
I think for Notre Dame's offense, right, and it's kind of the same thing. They're top tier rushing offense, but just slightly above average passing defense with Riley Leonard, and because of his rushing ability as well. If they can force him to be more of a traditional passer, make Riley Leonard beat them with his arm instead of his leg, that is somehow going to be the script where maybe they force him into turnovers or just generate some havoc, that type of stuff, and generate short fields or whatever, because he's 74th in EP per dropback and 50th in pass success rate, Riley Leonard is. So there's an opportunity there, in my opinion, for Georgia to capitalize if they can figure out how to shut down the rush D or the rush
Yeah, but
offense. Excuse me.
when we look at quality drive, Georgia 45th in defensive echo rate. I mean, they're allowing now. Look, I'd rather be 45th than 105th, but they do allow like this team. Georgia's defense is good. I think it's really difficult to contextualize their ranking numbers because of the strength of schedule. When you're playing every good SEC school in the nation, it's tough to be top 10. But yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. Have we seen, other than that Texas game, have we seen Georgia really been able to stop? And what did they struggle with? Running quarterbacks, Milroe all day, King all day. Is Riley Leonard loading? Like
maybe. Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this one, there's got to be like, obviously any one model, ours in particular as well, is not going to be able to incorporate or account for all variables, all factors, right? And like, there's got to be in my mind basically like a Kirby Smart variable in here somehow. that's really leaning towards the fact that with a backup quarterback, they're favored to beat the number 4 team in the country. Right.
True. I will say we didn't done anything to update our numbers, and we're like basically right on the market. So the question becomes, how much is the backup quarterback worth? And it's so difficult to figure that out in college.
Yeah, especially with such a small sample size of
but
plays.
Kirby's been here before. And he's been here before a lot.
That's the thing.
So we'll see. I just the only thing that keeps coming back. What is the one thing they struggled with, independent of who's there, who's not there? And the thing is, if Notre Dame's defensive woes and their DN going out Mills, like if this is a shootout, you still it was a miracle that Georgia ended up beating Georgia Tech. I mean, quite frankly. So is that the game script you see with Notre Dame? I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't want to put too much emphasis on that, but that seems to be a theme here. And that's independent of your backup quarterback, right? And arguably, the only reason you got back in the game is because you had Beck. You didn't have a backup quarterback. So your point in tails, I don't know. But let's talk about what all these games are going to mean. Because I want to talk about some of the futures positions that I have.
So we talked. Okay, 7 games left. That does not mean there is no value left in the futures market, particularly to win the national championship. So let's pull up our last graphic here of the day. So on the left is the bracket, and on the right is a chart or table of simulation odds, and then what the market odds are for each respective team to win the national championship, and then what our edge is. So just real quick, Seth, just if you want to spitball, give elevator pitch on how the sim odds are calculated.
Yeah, so basically the sims are just taking the aggregate power rating, and the power ratings, we don't just use our own numbers, we use available market numbers that are highly vetted. So we use SP Plus and Massey Peabody, as well as our own power rating to generate the power rating you see there. It's ordered there for the most strength to the most strong team to the least strong team. And then we run 10,000 simulations through all of the different scenarios that can happen. So, there's only basically, like Kevin was saying, 3 rounds left. And that's how you get the simulated odds, which are just a probability of them winning the national championship. And then you take the market odds. You can see what you can bet. And then you take the difference between those to find your edge to see if there's any actual edge left. And you can see, no surprise, we're sitting here 2 weeks later, Notre Dame and Penn State are still value. We talked about these teams in round 1, and they showed some value. They obviously did what they were supposed to do, and quite frankly, Penn State at least has probably the easiest pathway to the semifinals at least.
I want to give this a little more credit then, because we were talking about the college football playoff bracket and the potential scenarios a couple of weeks before the end of the season, and the teams that might fall into the 5 seed, into the 6 seed, and what that path looks like for those teams to ultimately advance. And lo and behold, we kind of picked out a Penn State. We kind of talked about a Notre Dame as well in those scenarios, and the chips just kind of fell fortuitously. We have positions on both.
we were talking about 5 and 6 seed at the beginning of the season, and we called out Penn State specifically saying,
Yeah,
look, it's
no,
not that
you're right.
crazy
You're
that
right.
Penn State is the other team in the Big Ten championship, and they end up at the runner-up at the 5 and 6 seed, and they have an easy pathway. They're going to have a home playoff game, and that's exactly what happened. I think you're sitting with a plus 2,200 ticket, or is it plus 2,000?
It's plus 2,000, yeah. And I
Okay.
was just looking up real quick to see when I placed that, because it was basically on the heels of one of our first conversations, and hopefully some of the listeners of the show dabbled too. Hopefully double dipped as well. But yeah, when was that? Let me see. So I placed that on
August, probably
September 13th.
September 13th. Wow.
Yep.
Plus 2,000. So I'm sitting here with plus 1,000 tickets for Penn State and plus 900 tickets for Notre Dame. Now I can bet, or I can cash out of the Penn State for about 50% of the value plus the ticket itself. Notre Dame, no live offer, which I knew I was getting myself into because I bet them over at BetMGM, and they are pretty bad about that. I don't know. I kind of want out. I don't know. The one problem here with both these teams, just to finish this thought real quick, is they have to play each other. So you kind of get some cannibalism. Like, so basically if both these teams win, they're going to play each other in the next round. And so I don't like that as much. I want two independent pathways to the championship.
I know you want to get greedy. I understand. Me too. But let me finish it from a different perspective. So the similar to the BetMGM scenario, the book, I placed mine at Desert Diamond, which was like, one of the kind of, say, niche isn't the right word, but like regional books, if you will. And they I don't think they've once offered me a cash out on any of the futures that have gained value, and these ones included. So I don't have any intent of cashing the Penn State out one or doing any type of hedging now. If anything, it'll be in the next round when they presumably play. Who would they play?
Notre Dame or Georgia.
Yeah, Notre Dame or Georgia. So so that would be next.
Yeah. Next round.
Interesting. Yeah, so I'm letting it ride for now. I there's no reason to. I mean, especially with them being a relatively huge,
11
relatively huge favorite. And it was a little different than the SMU futures that we had to win the ACC, because they were huge dogs. Not huge dogs, but I forget what the spread was going into that championship game.
They were favored.
Oh no, you're right, because I got plus money on Clemson. You're right. You were. My bad.
Now the question is, shout out Mr. Katz, did you get the double dip methodology with your plus 2,000?
He said I'm double dipped on Penn State.
No, but did you?
Did I? Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, and I'm double dipped with my plus 1,000. I want to ride my Penn State ones. I want out of my Notre Dame ones. So I'm contemplating if I should make a wager on Notre Dame or on Georgia. I think, unfortunately, so I have 2 tickets that are worth 1 unit in my bankroll, so 0.5% of my bankroll.
Yep.
I think, unfortunately, I have to just kind of go down with the ship, but I don't know. I don't like it as much.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So, I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to add any positions on Notre Dame. Or excuse me, on Penn State.
I'm gonna take the alt 13.5. I think I'm just going to go down swinging here with that. And the question would become, would you place some bets on Notre Dame or Penn State right now? Or where would you place your money? Even though the Sims may say something different, where would you place your money?
Yeah, good question. So outside of the Sims, I think I wouldn't mind sprinkling on the two long shots. Frankly, I would feel more comfortable on ASU than Boise State. Even though the Boise State one would somewhat be a kind of an emotional hedge to the Penn State futures, if you will. But I think I haven't seen really anybody, and this doesn't mean jack shit, frankly, but nobody is giving ASU the time of day to beat Texas in this one. And
except the market. The market's been buying, right? So
that's what I was going to get to. Yeah, the thing, and you look at the odds there. So we make it plus 7,700, and you can get 7,000 right now currently in the market. Is that worth at least a sprinkle? Because if some fluke shit happens, some high variance stuff happens, and they're able to upset Texas, those become incredibly valuable.
I
Because
couldn't
the
agree
winner
more.
would play what, the Oregon Ohio State game, is that right?
Well, at that point, just hedge
It does.
out. I mean,
Yeah, no, yeah. At that point, you have all optimal hedge out opportunities, and I don't give a shit if I'm paying the vig twice. Like, I'll be making some profit.
so if it's real, ESPN bet now has a plus 7,500 for ASU.
Plus, say it again, 75.
75.
Okay, see, hey, shout out.
So it's much closer to
Lazy
the true
book?
odds.
Yeah.
But hold on. Let's pause.
Yes.
Should we just be sprinkling ASU money line then? Because if we're just gonna play 7,700 to then hedge out in the next round, the math's gonna be pretty damn close to just
Stop it
sprinkling.
with your pragmatism here. Get the hell out of my face. Okay, you can get basically plus 395 at ProfitX, plus 375 or plus 380 at DraftKings if you're on a retail book. So yeah, that's not a terrible. I want no part of ASU futures. Yeah, Mr. Katz. No, I get it, man. Again, I'm not thinking, and we're not saying here that they actually have a shot to win it all per se.
No.
It's more about trying to
It's basically like, okay, look, you have the market, like our numbers support that, like technically 14 is too big, so therefore the price of the money line is too big. One, the market's also buying
right
ASU, so it's also supporting that thesis,
right?
Which means that, yeah, by definition, there's probably a little bit of value on the money line. Now, the probability of it happening is still low. It may be higher than it's being priced, but it's still low. Meaning it could be priced that it's going to happen 10% of the time, but we think it happens 15% of the time. But you have such long odds that that thing is worth so much more in that 15% of the time that it does win. You have a pretty valuable ticket. I don't know what the
but beyond that, for the rest of the teams, let's just pull that up one more time to kind of tie this up. But I don't have any strong feels or leans toward any of the other odds or any of the other teams really at this point. Like we got positions collectively on 25% of the field already. Like, okay, I'll live with that. And everything else, if I do, it'll be a sprinkle. And I think most of the value, especially after this week, will be gone probably. So because the odds, this field's going to shrink in half. So God knows if you're going to be able to see any value to pay, unless there's an upset, right? Unless there's an upset. So, might take the sprinkle, but beyond that, I'm just going to just go Nittany Lions and go Irish.
Yeah. I guess. We're definitely a Penn State podcast right now. I wore my blue and white just to represent.
Shout out, hey, good teams win, great teams cover, baby.
Amen. And we know Franklin's all about the cover.
This year he's not been a cover machine. I think he's like 50. I think he's like 50%. So he needs to step his game up.
Okay, well,
I don't care if he covers. Just win the damn game. Just win, baby. Win.
No, I need him to win by 2 touchdowns, baby.
Oh yeah, 13.5. Let's go. All right. That will do it for us. Quarterfinals are right around the corner. New Year's Eve right around the corner. So it's going to be a fun couple of days. Appreciate you guys all tuning in. This will be up. If you're not watching, if you didn't watch it live, it's going to be up on our YouTube page as well in the next day. So feel free to look back and go through any of the matchups. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate Mr. Katz and others with the comments. Don't forget to like the video if you haven't. Please subscribe to the channel as well. Even though college football is almost done, we got NFL still churning through the playoffs, so we'll be there. And there's a lot of other, hopefully maybe you guys have seen some of our content, around betting education, generally speaking. And we're going to have some additional content surrounding just that in the coming days, as well as some other info and some new tools available at our disposal for college basketball as well. So it's a couple of cool things up on the horizon. So please make sure to follow along, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of it. So, all right, Seth, it's been real, man. I'm looking forward to these games. Should be fun, and we'll be back. We'll be back next week sometime. I'll check the schedule, but talking about the semifinals.
Yep.
And then we'll take it from there, baby. So, all right, everyone, have a good night. Peace out. Good luck. We'll see you.